Yo, what is up you guys? Josh Miller here with my very first YouTube tutorial. I'm very excited for this one because I want to talk about something that I didn't really learn about until maybe a year into my filmmaking career, but it completely changes everything. We're talking ND filters. So to start everything off, ND filters are sunglasses for your camera. What they basically do is they're gonna cut down the amount of light that is physically coming in through your lens. When it comes to filmmaking and photography, there is something that you need to know about. It's called the exposure triangle. I'm gonna be doing a video on this a little bit later. I probably should have done this before this video, but we're here. So anyways, so the exposure triangle is made up of aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. Now, let me give you a scenario that will help demonstrate how this thing works. So, it's a sunny day out, you are wanting to shoot normal 24 frames per second, and so you're gonna double your shutter speed to 50 frames per second. For your ISO, you wanna put it right at the native ISO, which on a lot of cinema cameras, it's 800 ISO. For DSLR cameras, it changes a little bit. I'm pretty sure the EOS R is 400 native ISO. So you wanna keep that right there. And then for your aperture, if you want to have that more cinematic feel where you have some depth of field behind your subject, you don't want to close down your aperture anymore because then that's going to get rid of that depth of field. So you need a fourth option to bring the amount of light that's coming into your lens down. Now that is where ND filters come into play. So this is a variable ND filter. So as I turn it, so there is open, and as I turn it, it gets darker and darker and darker. Now these are absolutely incredible, but the problem with these is, at least for this cheaper one, this is a Tiffin. I think I bought this for about $80. This is a super great filter, but it does shift colors just a little bit. It's not the greatest glass in the whole world, but it's still pretty darn good. I've created a lot of amazing images using this one right here. So if you're using a cinema camera, you're probably gonna be using a matte box, and a matte box goes on the front of the lens. You're gonna be sliding a piece of glass, a neutral density filter. You're gonna be sliding one of those in the front of the lens. And the nice thing about those is that those pieces of glass are like perfectly engineered. They're not gonna shift your colors. Like they're usually very well made, even if it's like a Tiffin filter. They make great filters, just their variable NDs are a little wonky. But the only downside to that is that you can't dial it in to like exactly where you need it to be. It's a fixed piece of glass. If you want to change the ND, you're gonna have to pull it out, throw a new one in. So that means you have to have like, I don't know, like 5 different ND filters, different strengths. And that could be a little bit of a hassle. But the nice thing is with a variable ND filter, like I said, you can dial it into exactly what, and if you're using like a DSLR, I would definitely recommend that over a matte box, just because if you're using a DSLR for something, you're probably doing a little bit more run and gun, or you just need to work a little bit faster, and these can be super great. So for photography, it's a little bit different because with photography, you can crank up your shutter speed, you can play with those different things, but there's a couple instances where you wouldn't want to do that. So here's my example for that. You want to take a picture of a waterfall and you want that water to be silky looking is how people describe it. So for a long exposure, you're gonna turn your shutter speed down to maybe like a 1 second shutter speed or like a 2 second shutter speed. So the shutter's gonna boop, 1, 2, boop, close. So that's a ton of light coming into your camera. Now your aperture, again, you can turn that down a little bit, but again, you don't want to crank it to like f22. That's just not gonna look good. And then your ISO, you can only come down so far again. So this is again where an ND filter comes in. You are gonna want to put an ND filter on the front of your camera so that you can cut the amount of light that's coming in and get correct exposure. It is extremely important to use ND filters. It's that one thing that if you don't use it, you are going to struggle as a filmmaker, like I did. It took me, I think, a year. I'm not really sure exactly because it was 5 years ago. But I cringe whenever I see people not using ND filters, especially I've seen people on cinema cameras and they're not using ND filters and they're stopping their lenses down to f22 and then bringing their ISO, which ISO on cinema cameras is very different than like a DSLR. But they're stopping the lenses down, they're bringing their ISO down, and it's not the way to go. If you're gonna be spending 30 grand or 80 grand or whatever it is on a freaking cinema camera, just get some extra glass. I mean, if you really don't care that much, if you're gonna be stopping your lens down to f/22 anyways, buy a cheapy piece of $80 glass ND filter and at least do that. That will make your images look significantly better. I promise you, I'm telling you, ND filters are seriously the way to go. One of the nice things with some cinema cameras, not all of them, Red does not have it, which I would love if they had this, but it's internal ND filters. Now these are little pieces of glasses that will slide in front of the camera's sensor. It's literally inside the camera, like the Alexa Mini. I'm not sure how many stops of ND there is, but you can press a button and it slides into place. It is so nice, and I wish Red did this. It would be, oh, game changer. That'd be such an amazing camera. Maybe one day. So as of now, I've really only used the Tiffin variable ND filter. Like I said, it's not the greatest piece of glass in the whole world. When it comes to video, I definitely think it is better than photography. When I have shot photography with it, when I've wanted to do like a long exposure, it gets this really nasty blue X going through it, and that is basically because of how these things work. I'm not gonna go into it, but when you get it to a certain point, it'll cross like that. But some filters that I really do want to try, and I would love to get a couple of these from Polar Pro and Moment. They make some ND filters that they have hard stops on it, and so it will not go to the point of, it's called cross polarization. It won't get to that point. It has a hard stop. So those are great. They're definitely more expensive. It's quartz infused glass, and so it's amazing. It doesn't have any color shift or anything like that. They're more expensive, but in the world of filmmaking and photography, if you pay cheap, you're gonna get cheap. That's just the way it goes, man. So don't cheap out. Buy some good stuff. All right, so I hope that this video has been helpful to you guys. Don't be afraid of this stuff. It's not that scary. Watch videos. I'm gonna be putting out more videos on this stuff as well. It is such a valuable tool to have. It will literally change your filmmaking game. Having proper exposure and having correct colors is second to none. It really is. So if you have any questions, please put them down below. Hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. That'd be awesome. Again, more videos coming out. This is only my very first tutorial. Lots more to come, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See ya.